Alright, I made a bunch of videos that were just way too long for anyone to bother sitting through if they were just looking to figure out how to make a deck flat or how to make walls come up straight, stuff like that. What you see ahead of you is an older base that I made next to a portal. I had to clone it because it wouldn't show up anymore, but it looks like shit. It's one of the first few bases I made where I wasn't very good at getting stuff flat and level and stuff like that. That was just mainly made to get a lot of plants and make a lot of money. And that's the only thing that was made for it. There's no aesthetic to it really except that stupid staircase. So what I'm going to do in this video is there's two principles here. This video is going to be on making a deck flat with either the concrete floor panels or with the foundation pavers. And I just want to show people how to do that in its own context without having to sit through a gigantic video. So there's my base computer down there. Just FYI, always make sure you're more than 500 units from a portal. Otherwise, it might not show up if you make it public. They made a portal exclusion zone for the community events. That's probably never going away. So I'm going to back up here and find out how far I can get from my base computer, because I want to make this. I'm going to use this stuff that I'm making, and this is going to be for a 50 dome farm, and I want them all to be in a straight line. I'm going to park that out as I go along, but that's not really going to be part of the video. So we're going to start out. Step one is actually make a something. I'm going to elevate this just a tiny little bit here, just for make it easier to see. I like these right here, and then this planet's called Tangina, which is named after the little person in the original Poltergeist movie. And I think she's wearing blue through most of the movie, if I recall correctly. So I'm going to try to find a decent blue. That's about as good as it's going to get. So that'll be the color theme. All right. And we'll put that up about yay height. And we're going to start out by making the concrete floor panel deck. So I'll start out by putting one up there, and then we can get to work. Okay. The first principle of this, I'm probably going to use that word way too much, but this is not an omnidirectional symmetry situation here. As you can see, there's like these little tab things on either end of this panel. So when you're laying something out, you want all these to be facing in the same direction, because the angle at which it is rotated, because you can rotate panels, will affect how it connects to other stuff and what elevation the seam will be. So if we don't connect it right, it might be a little step up or a little step down. I'm sure if you've ever tried building anything flat, you run into that. And that's because these panels try to connect to all sorts of different stuff, and for whatever reason in the code, stuff doesn't just match up perfectly. So if you got a wall over here and a floor panel over there, and you're connecting them with another floor panel, it could hook to the wall and it could hook to the floor panel. And sometimes it could connect to both of those at two different elevations. So you have to really eyeball it to be careful. So the first thing is make sure all of these, when you're doing the concrete floor panels, or probably the metal ones too, although I never use metal or wood. I think they're both ugly. And this is plentiful. Ferrite dust, it's at every space station, is practically free. So the first principle is make sure they're all going in the same direction. So let's get the next one out. And that's already going the same direction. Now, the other thing you need to be aware of is where you place your cursor. I'm pointing at the screen again. You don't know what I'm pointing at. That little white dot is your cursor. Okay? And where you put that, now when we're just doing it in a line like this, it's not that big of a deal, because there's only one place it could connect at the most at two different heights. Like sometimes if you have the cursor out here floating in space, because remember there's not anything there yet because I haven't built it, it'll be at a certain height, and then when you put the cursor on what you're going to connect it to, it'll be at a different height. That doesn't seem to be happening right now. I use a PS4 controller. I don't know what you guys use. You can rotate it by holding the left shoulder button and rotating with your left stick, and that'll rotate it in different directions. Sometimes in the act of rotating, you will actually see it change height before it rotates, because there's two different positions elevation-wise it can attach at, so you got to keep an eye on that. So I always try to put my cursor on the piece I'm connecting it to. It kind of tells it where it's going to be connecting, because if it's got more than one to choose from, it'll always pick the wrong one. It just knows what you want, and it fights you. That's what the game does. So I put my cursor on the thing I'm connecting it to, which is this one, and I've connected it. And as you can see, this connection, it's flat, it's level, there's no little step up, no little step down. So do the same thing with this one, and we'll follow this principle out for a while. Let's see how far I can go without getting outside the boundaries of my base, because if I'm going to do 50 domes in a straight line like I'm planning, I will be pushing that boundary, and it might not be possible. So here we go. And as you can see, I'm connecting. I'm clicking the button to connect. Right there. Often, for whatever reason, it's mainly just superstition, I try to put it inside of the green circle. At this stage, it doesn't matter much, but it will. And as you can see, it even at first, when it comes out, it's not rotated in the right direction. It's not until you progress. So see, when you progress, see, it'll be up there. Notice where my cursor is. It's not on the one it's attaching to. My cursor is on the one before the one it's attaching to. And as a result, it's not rotated properly. When I move it up to the next panel, it rotates on its own. And then we connect it. So I'm just probably going to fast forward to this part because I'm going to see how far I can go real quick. That was fairly quick. I'm definitely not going to be able to fit 50 domes on this, which is sad. But that's a different issue I'll have to address later. So that's as far as we can go. Let me run back here to the beginning. Again, a lot of fast forwarding. You know, I'm not like an expert on this, and I'm sure there might be people out there who know more about what's going on with this stuff than I do. I don't understand anything about game design or coding, or this is the only game I've ever played where I built stuff. Like, I've never played Minecraft or none of that shit. I'm 42 years old. Once in a great while, a game comes along that really grabs my attention, and this just has been one of them. I have like over 300 hours into it. And I mean, a lot of that was before the base building stuff started. Now that there's the base building, you make them public. I don't know why, but I'm just really into that now. So that's what I've been doing. I've actually hit the construction limit for my save several times. Not just the construction limit for one base, but the overall construction limit for your save. I've had to go back and delete other bases so I could build more. That's how much of this I've done. And almost all of them have been not just like that, but they've been biodome farms that were built on some kind of platform that I intended to make public. And after doing that over and over and over again, I've picked up some stuff that really helps me make it nice and neat. So you can see this whole thing straight. That's no big accomplishment because it can only attach to one thing. So there's not a lot of choices there. So this bitch is flat. I mean, that's as flat as it's going to get right there. Where the challenge comes is when you want to make another row of them going down the side that also is flat. And that's where your problems are first going to crop up, is when you try to go more than one wide, or if you're trying to build adjacent to a wall to make a roof or a floor touching a wall, and you're trying to make this big old dance floor and nothing will be straight and you're just pulling your fucking hair out. So this is the next thing that you need to know. If you're going to build more than one row wide, you do not do what we just did. The first row, you build like that. You go straight and you just keep going until you run out of space or until you get where you want to go and you're good to go. And then you come back to the beginning or start where you left off down there. I always come back to the beginning. When you build that next row, you do not do the same thing. We aren't going to go over here, lay a floor panel, and then just start walking that way with it like we just did. You can't do that because for whatever reason, every time you do this, there are minute imperfections in the code or in the geometry of the objects. I don't know how this shit works. All I know is if you do that, you will have two of them that start out like this, and at the end, they're like this. There will be a distance between them in elevation. Sometimes, not only will there be a difference in elevation, but there will be like movement in and out, and it will not stay square. Even if they're next to each other and they're supposed to be attaching, you'll still see them creeping in and out, up and down. And it will drive you fucking nuts because you're like, how do I do this? The key to building stuff in this game is you have to trick the game. You have to fool it because this game does not, whatever it is you want to do, the game knows what it is. The game knows what you want to do when you're building, and it will fight you every step of the way. And you are constantly having to fool and trick and do end arounds around this game to make it do what you want. So when we want to build this next row, we're not just going to go in a straight line next to it and have faith in the game to put it in the right place because it's fucking not going to do that. Instead, you're going to start on your first one, pull up another floor panel here, and you are going to connect it to that. Mind the rotation. So we have to rotate that to get the tabs right and connect it to that. And like I said, we're not just going to run down here, laying them down. You can't do that. You got to do it slow and steady. You've got to connect it to the other row. We are not connecting this new panel I'm putting down is not connecting to this panel. It's connecting to the row next to it. And that's how you maintain level. Across even like 5 or 10 panels, you can have major play just depending on random numbers or some shit. I don't know. But if you do it this way consistently, you'll produce stuff that is as level as it can be. It won't always be perfect, but it'll be the absolute maximum that you can get out of this game outside of like going into the code and modding it somehow. So now we're going to lay some of these down so you guys get an idea what I'm talking about. So this right here is going to connect to this one. And that is because my little white cursor is on this. Now when I put my cursor over here, oh, well, it moved. It was supposed to rotate. But if you listen, and it's really hard to hear, let me turn up the desktop audio here, because it ain't even on right now. Get that all the way up. You can actually, it makes noises when it's shifting. When it rotates, it makes a noise. And when it does those little shifts in elevation I was talking about, it makes a noise too. And then that's a cue for you to look at it and visually. That noise right there, you'll, oh. Okay, so right now it's only doing the two different positions. And you may not be able to see it now, but connecting to this one produces a different height than connecting to this one. So we go right here and we connect to this one. Now I've given some consideration to just doing it the wrong way and showing you, but I'm going to show you the right way first. And then I'll show you what the wrong way looks like. As you can see, I'm using the cursor to connect it to this one. Now, what I was talking about with the elevation changing and stuff like that, that might require a wall to be next to it or another row if you're building in between rows, like maybe more than two potential connections for it. Yeah, I'm just going along and doing this. And I'm not going to do this like all the way to the end, I don't think, because I don't want to make this video last forever, and I don't want to spend hours editing the boring parts out of the video. So let's just get down here. Again, you can see it rotates depending on... Okay. Now listen. Hear that? What's that clicking noise? You can see it's not rotating, so it's not that. That click right there is a change and a very subtle difference in the potential height of the panel you are about to lay down. So putting it here and putting it here are two different things. Even though to the naked eye it looks the same, and sometimes it won't even look the same to the naked eye. You'll actually be able to perceive the difference in the height of the panel just by looking at it. But here, you can hear that. Turn it up. Because there's two different panels there. And you can't really see the difference, and the ships making everything shake like this makes it a little harder even if you could, but there's a difference there. And we'll just go and listen again. Now that right there doesn't even make sense because we're still on the same thing, which is why I say cursor position is important because for some reason here and here are producing two different fucking elevations, two different positions. That click is there due to a change in position. It's hard to see with it flashing, but I guarantee you there's a difference there. So that's why I always try to put the cursor in the same spot. You want to be consistent. You find the sweet spot and you use it over and over and over again. So I'm going to keep laying these. And take your time. Don't run full blast, dropping them as fast as you can because you'll miss your positioning. And then at the end, you'll be like, oh, I got to delete all these. If you're like me and want it to be flat. Most people don't really give a shit about this stuff, and that's fine. They're just looking for functionality or a good-looking thumbnail. I want this thing to look like it was actually constructed, like it was made to serve a purpose, like maybe there was a foreman somewhere bitching about it, it better be level. You know, I want it to look authentic, as authentic something in a sci-fi video game can be. I take my time, make sure I'm in the green circle when I click that bitch in there. And yeah, this gets old real fast too. I mean, I have made stuff where I tried making a like 3D pixel version of the telepod from The Fly. And I was like using a Minecraft circle maker that makes, you know, squares into circles and stuff like that to map out. And like my bottom layer or my widest layer on the telepod, because it was made in a bunch of decks. And I never finished it because it looked like shit because I just didn't think it through very well. But it was like 18 by 18. You know, it was like the circle was a diameter of 18. So what is that? That's like a hair under 400 panels or something like that. Because like 20 by 20 would be 400. It's like way over 300 panels just for one deck. And there were 4 decks that size. So it's like, I have done this a lot. And it gets old real fast. Especially, you know, at first when I was first doing this stuff, it's like, okay, this is challenging. And I'm trying to learn things and I'm figuring out ways around problems. And that's fun. But now that I have some of the major problems whooped, doing stuff like this and taking my time to do it actually gets pretty boring. Okay, here we go. Look at this. Look at that. You see the height change there? And in fact, because I was... What's going on here? Because I was talking or whatever, I've made some kind of error in what I'm doing. And you can see that, look at the elevation change, just on this little difference in cursor position. So that right there is not going to work. Now these all look good, and something happened right here. And it looks like, if I look at this right here, I'll have to go back and delete this one. Now everything looks okay right here. And you see, even, no, it doesn't look okay, because this one's too fucking low. Or this one's too high, rather. Like I said, you'll get it as good as you can get it. This game will not give you perfection. I used to think at the very least this game will keep things square and you just have elevation problems. And then I tried to build a long deck that was longer than I'd done before, and it also knocks things out of square, too. And this looks level right here, so why is this giving me fits right here? Probably getting rid of this one. Go back. Oh, this looks... Yeah, there's clearly a problem there. Clearly a problem there. Yep. And you can see there's a difference in length here. So I might have run into a whole new problem that I'd never encountered before, which is a difference in length. And also, it appears as though the very first one I laid was not very good. So... Again, there's just no winning, really. You're not going to win. In the end, you're going to have to eyeball this stuff and decide. Because look, there's two different positions right there. One position, so this is a whole new one, right? I used to always think shit would just mate up and it would touch and that would be it. So now even length is not consistent. If I lay 10 panels end to end and it's X length, when I lay 10 panels end to end next to it, it might not be X length. It might be X plus 5 or X plus 2 or something like that. Because that's literally what I'm seeing right here is this change in position is literally a change in length. I've not seen that before. God, this just pissed me off. All right. Let's drop that right there. And as you can see, it's way less than perfect. And is there a way to do this where it is not fucked up? Because that one's fucked up. I thought I was doing it good. This one's fucked up. You can see the difference in the edge there. God damn. But that's okay, because I'm going to show you another technique that I learned. Sometimes the best thing to do is to split stuff up. Like you want to keep it by itself. So we'll try another technique to kind of control the length of this deck. And this is going to seem even more absurd, but if you really want perfection, like I always do, you might want to try this. So instead of doing this one and then this one, that gives it two options for position. Possibly 4 if the elevation is changing, like we were showing before. Possibly 6, or no, you have to multiply it. So possibly 8 different positions, because there's 2 things it can attach to. Differences in length, differences in position, differences in height. You know, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So there's 8 different positions that can go right on this motherfucker. Are you fucking kidding me? Why can't it just snap together? I don't know. I know this game isn't about base building. Base building's like an afterthought. It's just something they threw in somewhere down the line. And you can tell they didn't want to make it, you know, like their mission in life to make this thing accurate and clean and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is, since there's 2 connections there, which turns it into 4, turns 2 positions into 8 that are possible, we're going to do every other one first, and we'll see if that produces a better outcome. There we go. The other one, and maybe that will do better to control the distance. See, look at this right here already. Look at that. In, out, in, out. And this one, the height is higher. What is going on? It's like you can't win. But like I said, you can minimize the garbage. You can really reduce it quite a bit to where it's not noticeable by doing this stuff. I'm not seeing any difference in position available here, so it should be fine. Yeah, there's only one click happening there, so this should be good to go. It might be that it's literally impossible just to get it to position itself right. And all this noise from these fucking ships, I should just go delete those landing pads, but that seems fine. And also, I've found where you're standing can make a difference. Maybe not necessarily with this, but like positioning of biodomes, because I built biodomes across from each other and built one from inside the other biodome just so I could have more room to see what I was doing, and built another by being real close and looking straight down at, where the lines were I was trying to build on. And they'd be at different elevations because I was standing at different elevations when I made them, or because the angle, my camera angle was different. It's like there's so many, there are so many variables to this that it's just ridiculous. And it makes it so difficult. See what's going on here. Well, whatever. And you just kind of, you have to eat it. Eventually, I mean, you could spend just a whole day and you could probably get this way, way leveler if you put like 3 or 4 hours into just policing every single thing. Another thing that'll fuck up the elevation and the position and stuff like that, storms. When it makes the screen do this, it'll make it harder to position, and I'm pretty sure it actually causes fluctuations in the actual position while you're trying to position it. The same with these stupid fucking ships that keep landing on those landing pads back there, and they're shaking everything. So I'm going to turn around and delete those real quick. So I deleted those landing pads. Now, what the fuck is this thing doing? It's just sitting there. I mean, this is not the issue, but it's like, why? It's just floating there in space. Dumb. And then that guy's over there, there's no landing pad. All right. So remove that distraction. Try to. Okay, look. Again, I never tire of showing this stuff. What's going on there? Ridiculous. I sat down, I was like, okay, I know what's going on, and now I can make a video that just explains what's going on and how to avoid the problems. And in the course of it, it's always like this, where you think you have something figured out, but there's another problem, and there's another problem. You do not have the control over this game that you would have over other games in different situations. Nothing is predictable, nothing is accurate, nothing is reliable. Like, look, what the fuck is this shit? Why is it going up and down? Why? It does not make sense. So you just got to find ways to trick it. You got to research for yourself what's causing the problem. You got to try different solutions and see how they work. And we'll fast forward this a little bit. I'm going to go all the way to the end here. All right, so here we are at the end. Again, from here it looks good, It looks like even this right here, which I laid all on its own, is fucked up. So it's like, if there's only one thing it can hook to, there's nothing left for you to do. You just have to accept that it's fucked up. There's like nothing you can do. But compared to like this shit down here and stuff like that, and what myself and a lot of other people are building the first 4 or 5 times they do this is fucking immaculate compared to that, because it's an absolute nightmare when you first start doing this. So now we'll fill in the blanks here. Oops, I can't build there because I'm too far from the base computer. And again, you see, there's changes in elevations. You got to decide which one do you want. I'm going to go with that one. And you literally, for every piece, you're probably going to have to do this. Now this one, look at that. That's perfect right there. So this approach may have been beneficial, because that looks pretty perfect too. No, there's 2 different, what is... And you can see the difference. And that is not just a difference in height, that is a difference in position. One's in closer to the previous row, one's out farther. Which one do you choose? There's probably more positions available over here. Look at this. Okay, that right there, you can tell that's just fucking perfect. So great, you know. Again, you just end up having to eyeball it. See, it popped up to where I want it to be. All right, great. And again, perfect is never going to fucking happen in this game. You just need to go for acceptable, you know, and that's different for everybody. For most people, again, when they're building this, number one, they're not going to build these giant fucking mega bases that I've been throwing together, stuff like that. And you might not be either, but you know, if you're going to stretch something out over the course of more than 10 panels, you're going to run into these problems. And if you ever decide, hey, I want to build something big, you're going to run into these problems a lot. And there's not going to be any easy answers. See, when I rotated it, it shows, look, I can use the rotation function to actually switch positions. Look at that. What are they thinking? Why is that? What is the benefit to having that much variation in the game? Clearly, it's unintentional. Like there's no save in that one. That one's just going to be a gap there. So typically, when I build decks, I only build enough for like one walkway. And then I'm building domes on either side. And I can show you that maybe in another video. I'll make I've been making these short, concise videos. Although this one's probably already ridiculously long. Just showing basic things. And I'll make one showing how I do the domes after I do the walls one. So look, we're up to 3 now. There we go. And using the rotate function, sometimes it'll allow you to change the elevation. Sometimes it just goes straight into rotation, but if you just barely tip it, when there's options, it'll let you explore them in a very frenetic kind of hurry up and switch, and you got to hurry up and switch back. And see that? Showing 2 changes in position. But most of the time, it's turning before I can figure out what the hell's going on. Alright, so for the most part, what we have here now is level. You know, it's level, it's more or less lined up the way you want it to be. Stuff like that. Even that intersection is shy of perfection by quite a bit, but it's not the huge steps and stuff that you'd normally end up with. So, I guess that's the end of this. So that's how you get those flat. I can also show you real quick. It's the same principle with the foundation blocks, or it's just, yeah, the foundation like pavers. It's the same principle, but it's just slightly more difficult because the if those look like they're like what I call omnisymmetrical, like they're the same in all 4 rotational positions. At 90 degrees of rotation, it's the same thing it looks like, but I'm not necessarily convinced that it is. Let's see here. That is going to be in here. And this is the other primary construction tool that I use, or medium, is these things right here. And I mean, I can't tell if they're supposed to be the same or not, and that's just the lighting and the flashing or what. All right. So these, first of all, a great thing about these, they're a different fucking size and they connect to the middle. And this is literally what I do to put the domes down too, but we're not going to really work on that. We're just going to build off of here. I'm going to connect it right here. And as you can tell, it's more or less omnidirectional. So it doesn't seem to matter. There's no way to tell by looking which way the rotation is if there's a difference. They just look the same all the way around. So I'll build out a couple of these. And again, trying to click in basically the same spot, which gives you some hope for a flat surface, although not a whole ton. And I mean, I understand it might be asking a lot for something to go 50 panels without deviating a bit. I don't know a lot about programming. In my mind, what I picture is just fucking numbers. So just use numbers that are the same every time. But I don't know how that stuff works. So, you know, I'm just talking out of my ass. Maybe it is impossible. Maybe, I don't know, what is it like with Minecraft? I mean, can you build stuff in a straight fucking line that stays at the same level? I don't know. I don't play that shit. Alright, same dealio here. And again, there's so many potential variables where I'm not sure if they make a difference or not. I'm putting the cursor there, but where am I standing? Does that make a difference? You know, it'll be imperceivable no matter what, but is there a difference between placing it like this and placing it like this? I don't fucking know. Is it the elevation of my camera angle? Like, is there a difference between placing it like this and placing it like this? I got no fucking clue. And it's hard to experiment and figure it out because it takes so much time for it to show up, because you got to build out 10, 20 panels. So here we go. And again, you have no clue with the rotation, so you just got to take what it hands you and hope that it's giving you the right thing. Pro tip, it's not fucking doing that. But you just have to try. And because these are a little more gappy in the seam where they come together, it's a little harder to perceive the difference in height and stuff like that. I mean, and I've had some of these come out where I was like, wow, every one of these is perfect when using the foundation pavers. Whereas with the floor panels, I don't, but they're more trustworthy and I can connect them to walls and stuff like that. And they're wider. And I get so tired of looking at these too. There's something shoddy looking about them. Whereas the floor panels up in the air is kind of believable. This, not so much. So look at that. I mean, that looks good, right? There's what's going on right here. What's going on right there is just the lighting or whatever. Wow, that looks really good. So there's that. So that right there is just, that's the main principles. Everything I've sat here and bitched about for the last 15 minutes. How to get a deck nice and straight and level and stuff like that. Let's see, is there anything else I can throw in here? No, I'm going to do walls next, so that'll be a separate video. So there it is. That's how you make a really sincere attempt at making a straight level deck. At least this didn't go out of square, and there is not, again, I mean, I could show you the bad way. I mean, I'll show you the bad way real quick, just so you know what I'm talking about. Which, Jesus, I can't even go through the menu. That just totally caught me off guard, the fact that there was yet another issue that had to be worked on. So we'll put that there, and now we'll just run them down this way. By run, I mean walk at a really casual pace, because they won't let you sprint while you're doing this shit. And you can see this thing buckling and stuff like that up and down. And as you can see by looking right here, already there's a major issue with that. I mean, that looks like butt. It just kind of is creeped down here a little bit, you know. And I guess you could try doing it straight like that and just pay close attention to what you're doing and maybe choose your positions and stuff like that and get a better result than this. But most people are just going to build in a straight line and then build another straight line. And then you get this shit right here, which is, I guarantee you, not only is there an elevation issue here, but they've probably begun to creep closer or farther apart. But you can see there's also a length issue there. So, like, it's just not the best way to do it. IMO. So I'm going to delete this shit, and that's the end of the video on how to lay a flat deck. And if I come up with something else, I can always tack it on later. That's it.